The Bible Story Volume 2, Introduction, by Herbert W. Armstrong. In response to overwhelming demand, this second and revised volume of the Bible Story is published. We are thrilled and overjoyed because of the enthusiastic acceptance of Volume 1. Those who have read or listened to the first volume know that there has never been a Bible story book like this. There have, of course, been many Bible story books, too many of a kind, but candidly they seem, to me, to have no mission except to entertain children. They seem to try to compete with the exciting fiction of violence in which youngsters get entirely too much on TV, on their media devices, or they read in books or comics. These mainstream children's Bible story books were just a series of disconnected blood and thunder stories drawn from certain biblical incidents. There's no connection between one to another, or with the gospel. They were shorn of their real meaning. They seem to me to degrade the Bible in the minds of children. The real connection of these biblically recorded incidents with the meaning and purpose of life, of God's message to mankind, has been ignored. Yet all these incidents are recorded in the Bible because they have real and deep meaning. They teach vital lessons that ought to be made plain to children and to adults as well. For years in my ministry, I felt an overpowering sense of responsibility mingled with a feeling of inadequacy for getting these proper teachings to children. It's a frustrating consciousness, for my time was so completely filled in ministry to adults. I early had come to realize that newborn infants know nothing at birth. Humans must learn and be taught. Born in a predominantly paganized society, the infant is taught from birth in the customs and ways of such society. It would never occur to the child to question them. They are simply absorbed, taken for granted, and accepted. In school, this child is not graded on ability to prove whether the teaching is true or false. They are graded on willingness to accept without question, memorize, and absorb whatever the teacher teaches. Educators have, as Paul wrote, been reluctant to retain God in the knowledge they disseminate. Romans chapter 1, verse 28. Today's children are born into a confused, mixed-up, divided religious Babylon. The hundreds of organized religious denominations and sects cannot agree on what the gospel is, on who or what God is, on whether Christ was human, divine, or both, whether there is a devil, what salvation is, what or where the reward of the saved shall be, or how one may even obtain it. Each one seems to take for granted whatever brand of religious belief has been taught to him from childhood. It is 10 times more difficult to unlearn error than to learn truth. This, then, is the dilemma that challenged me. Children, still to this day, are being reared in the same old secular pagan philosophies and customs, with the addition of the so-called scientific approach that has arrived with the acceptance of the theory of evolution. This atheistic attempt to explain the presence of a creation without the existence of a creator has become the basic concept by which all causes, origins, and purposes are explained. By the time these innocent children have been inoculated with this anti-God poison and reached maturity, most of them have too much to unlearn before their minds can accept original truth. An inborn prejudice has been set up, and prejudice is an absolute barrier to the entrance of truth into the mind. But what could I do about it? Children need, as they need life itself, an awareness of the basic truths of the Bible while they are growing up. If only we could get to them the knowledge of God, of the Creator and His vast creation, of His authority and rulership over the creation He brought into being and now sustains, of the invisible yet inexorable spiritual laws He set into motion to regulate relationships and produce happiness, peace, and everything good, of the knowledge that the Bible definition of sin is simply the transgression of these laws operating for our own good, of the basic knowledge of God's purpose being worked out here below, and of His plan for working it out, of the biblical revelation of Christ and what He means to us today, of the vital connection of these case histories, incidents, experiences, so often seized upon as the material for the blood and thunder type Bible stories, but now with God's overall purpose and with the gospel. If only growing children could be possessed of this knowledge, they would not be deceived and would not be misled by the teaching of the secular school systems. Years ago, this realization plagued me. God had called me to an important ministry which He was blessing with rapid and constant growth, but the children were being neglected in this ministry. How could I supply this lack? For years, it has been a frustrating dilemma. How could I get to growing children a real knowledge of God, of the Creator and His vast creation, of His power, authority, and rulership over all that He created, of the very purpose in having put humans on this earth, of the vital connection between these biblical incidents and the meaning of life? In due time, God supplied the man for this important undertaking. Basil Wolverton was a nationally known artist in the United States. His work appeared in more than 50 national circulated magazines, and he was both an artist and a trained writer. He was converted through the World Tomorrow broadcast many years ago. He was a student and a teacher of the Bible. In November of 1958, the Bible story started, serially in the Plain Truth magazine. But it is not written only for children. We like to say it is written for children from age 5 to age 105. Mr. Wolverton wrote in a simple, understandable language, easily read by children at the 9 to 12-year-old level, yet it's still interesting to adults as well. With professional expertness, Mr. Wolverton makes this story flow, gripping and thrilling in plain and simple words. Parents can read or listen to this book with their 4 and 5-year-olds, and with just a little explaining, make it understandable and also absorbing and interesting. The Bible story is definitely not a series of disconnected stories, of excitement and violence with no other special meaning. Our purpose is to tell simply in language children can read and understand plainly yet interestingly the story of the Bible itself. Beginning at the beginning, a continuous story thread runs through the entire Bible. Not many have ever grasped this amazing yet important fact. Most people read a verse here or a chapter there and fail to properly connect them or understand the true continuity of the Bible story. Mr. Wolverton stuck to the literal biblical account. He has taken author's license to portray certain incidents in conversational styles or to fill in, for purposes of clarity and realism, a few tomatoes on the windowsill. Yet he was zealously careful to avoid adding to or detracting from the real and intended meaning of the sacred scriptures. The first volume contains 30 chapters. This present volume picks up the story from there. It is a continuing memorial to Basil Wolverton, who died in December of 1978. And it is presented to you as a ministry of love, without money and without price. It is our fervent hope that it will bring to you and your children enlightenment, interesting reading, understanding, and abundant blessings from its original and true author, Jesus Christ.